Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the HAWKS'S, and I am your host, Luke Moore, and here I'm joined by...
Nolan Hallman.
And Nathan Wagaman.
And how is your guys' school going so far?
It's going pretty well. Got a very, very light schedule this year, which I appreciate. Don't have much going on. I never leave the first floor, which is a great time.
Yeah, mine's pretty similar and not a very heavy schedule, mostly light. My junior year was heavy, but I'm not as lucky as Nolan. I have somewhere a little bit everywhere. Third floor, second floor, first floor, east wing. So there's a lot of walking around, but my favorite part's probably being in the film production class.
Mm-hmm.
Did Swanson pay you to say that?
No, but I'm just being honest about my year, honestly.
So if I pay you more than he's told you to...
I'll say whatever you want. Honestly, if there's
Nate
money
Wagaman has a
involved.
price. Everybody.
Yeah, I
Nate
have
Wagaman has a price.
I have a price.
$20 is $20, huh?
Yeah, $20 is $20.
Okay, anyway. So you both know what we're here to talk about. It is future transportation, right?
You
Okay,
betcha.
so what do you think the best way to get to school is in the future?
Now, if you're thinking like far in the future, well, transportation, but realistically, teleporting is what you're thinking, but realistically, you're thinking anything but a bus, because buses take a half hour from my house. We need something faster.
Sure.
Yeah, you can buy your own car, but with inflation and stuff, that doesn't look like it's happening for future students.
Okay. Nolan?
I don't know. I think that though buses do kind of suck, it might be still the most efficient way we have. I'm gonna be that guy.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't think that there's anything that could be done that would deal with the problems of getting a bunch of people in completely different locations to one singular location. That works as well enough as buses. I just don't understand I don't think you could do that any other better way with the technology we currently possess.
Yeah, with what we currently possess.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But I also feel like there's ways that they can improve the buses.
Yeah.
Sure.
'Cause,
I'm good with that.
All right, do you want to hear my vision when I thought of this podcast idea?
Sure.
All right,
Here we
you
go.
guys can just add on if you want.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I thought of you're just in this town and they have this dedicated building to teleporters, right? And they're all lined up, maybe 12 in a row, and they also have them in the school. And so kids just go into that building and then they go in those. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so say if you have we'll just call it Hurricane Ian at this point, right? You have Hurricane Ian on you, right? And you had to get to school because you had to make up that English test. And then you just walk through the hurricane like the boss you are, right? And then go to that teleporter, you know what I mean? And you're just in the school now. You get what I'm saying?
The problem present with that is that we do not know how to teleport things at the moment.
And
That would be that'd be our rough bit
Yeah.
currently.
But
That
another
may not
problem,
be possible.
another problem. I don't mean to be that guy, but realistically, you're building a spot, a location, a building for those teleporters to bring you to school.
Yeah.
But the biggest problem is we're having a hard time getting to the school. Okay,
Yeah.
getting to that building is the same struggle as getting to this school.
I agree wholeheartedly.
So I have a friend, middle of nowhere, lives in the woods. His trouble is getting to school. Okay, but if you put that building smack down in the middle of town, where everyone can walk up to it, no cars needed, he still has to find a way to get to town.
That is true. That is
So
true.
it's the same struggle, just for an extra step.
I actually never thought of that. That's actually a really good point.
I do love teleporters.
Oh.
I love the concept. I don't know if we've ever figured out how to make that happen. I really don't think we have. But if we have, then that'd be pretty special.
That'd be pretty awesome.
I think we should do some nuclear testing.
Nuclear.
Yeah, nuclear testing, but let people get bit by random objects, so so we get superpowers.
Yeah, that'll solve it.
Yeah, it solves it. We either fight each other or we get to school on time. Super speed,
You
Spider-Man skills.
You didn't even say get bit by a random animal. You said get bit by a random object.
anything.
You're gonna get bit by a refrigerator?
I would love to get bit by a refrigerator.
If I'm the first man to get bit by a radioactive love seat, then I'm going to be that guy.
No, that's already you.
Yeah. Okay.
My bad.
These mics need pop filters. I just breathed like full force in the mic.
This is not hard. Okay.
Funniest thing about transportation, actually.
Go for it.
Yeah.
When I was like younger, everyone always asked like, "What is that one thing you wish was a thing?" And I always said transportation, or like teleportation. My correction, but mainly because like I always thought like if you can do it yourself, that cuts down on everything. If you can do it with a portal, that also cuts down on most. Yeah, finding the energy sources and like the science behind that's gonna be struggling, but like I think that comes in handy a little more than other things.
Yeah.
Like if you compare that to like making manufacturing a car, like who's gonna pick what, teleporting or driving?
Exactly.
Sure. Yeah. Here's a point, and I'm not saying it's very futuristic, but I'm saying it is a point. There's one thing that I wish the United States had in the way that some other countries in Europe have. I'm talking about trains.
Ooh,
Europe,
yeah.
European countries, even England, which is not connected to the mainland by a train. Even like England, all of those European countries just have a crap ton of trains. So like if you want to get to like from town to town, you go by train. Like driving is like if you have a car and it's not that far. Like the majority of people, like if you live in Birmingham and want to go to London, you take a train.
Yeah.
Like that's just, I feel like we could do with some trains here in the U.S. We have some.
Yeah, we used to have them, but they like ever since like truckers came out and like cars got mass produced, they shut down the railroad system.
We never had passenger trains to the extent that England does now.
That's true.
We always had like trains to carry like coal and things and raw materials, but we never had like passenger trains to the extent that European countries still do.
Even that is like the fact that we only had coal trains and even those were shut down is promoting cars and longer sources of travel.
Well, because it gives you more wiggle room. Like for every place you wanted a train to be, you had to build a railroad. With trucks, you can really like wherever there is a road, period, which is useful for more things than just trains. Like talking just in the transport of objects, like hauling materials can be done on roads. Hauling people can be done on roads. Like multiple things can use roads. Trains are very like one-dimensional. Like you got trains, and that's all that can use railroads. I think that's kind of why we like went away from them towards the 1940s, 1930s, and then the introduction of the American highway system in the 1950s. So but like England never left that. Like they never had highways because they just didn't have enough space to build a bunch of highways.
Yeah, I understand that like highways are like better, but you're still falling on the fact that like mass, like if you're traveling on a larger scale, it's still safer to take train. I feel like we should definitely bring that back to a degree.
And I think we kind of are. Like I know that there are talks of at least an East Coast railroad that'll go through like Boston, through New York, through Philadelphia, the whole way down to Atlanta or like Miami. Because there is a need for that. The issue is just finding does the public need it enough to like kind of.
I personally feel like if we had that, like accidents themselves and like long car rides would like reduce by like a large percentage.
Oh, I'm
because,
sure.
Like, you think how many people are driving 24 hours or more just to get to their location, and then they get tired behind the wheel and they crash. Like,
sure.
I really feel like if we had like long distance train travel, it cuts back on accidents and
I think it's so useful. I know that there is at least like a train that goes from I want to say it's like Washington D.C. to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, like right outside Miami. And That's like it. Like takes cars. Like you just drive your car up onto the train, and then you just do your thing, your train thing, until you get to Fort Lauderdale, and then you have your car there.
That's really cool, actually.
And the technology that we have with like just trains in general, like how fast the trains can go.
Oh, that reminds me. I saw this thing. They were building this train that goes literally across the entire United States in like maybe 2 hours.
I believe that. I feel like we have that technology.
It's like they built like this tunnel and it sucks all the air out of it, so there's less drag.
Wasn't Elon Musk a part of that?
I think he was. Yeah.
He was doing that stuff with boring,
Mm-hmm.
but he also made that like he made that like underground highway in Las Vegas, which like failed to mass proportions, I think.
But you know how much he actually made off that?
Oh, I'm sure a ton.
Oh, yeah.
Because like everything he dug out, he didn't just go and dump that dirt somewhere. He actually like made building blocks out of it and sold it to like people that are building skyscrapers and stuff. Like
I only remember hearing that like as soon as it happened, it was like stop traffic. Like it took you like an hour and a half to get through it
Really?
because the traffic was so slow. That's all I remember. I feel like sometimes that we try to. I feel like Europe does a lot of things that we as Americans are too stubborn to do. Do you understand how efficient roundabouts are?
Oh yeah.
They're great. Roundabouts are like the most efficient. I'm a big Mythbusters guy. If you've ever watched Mythbusters,
Oh, yeah.
that show on what was it, the Science Channel, Discovery Channel. Basically, two dudes. If you don't know what Mythbusters is, especially to our viewers, is these two dudes who take like commonly held conceptions and myths and did science stuff to like put them to the test, see if they were actually true. And one of those things they did were that four-way stop signs were faster than roundabouts, because Americans did four-way stop signs way after Europeans did roundabouts, because we just thought they were faster. But then they did the test, and like roundabouts were so much more efficient and like less like near accidents because you're all going the same direction. And I feel like we like threw those out just like we threw trains out. I feel like Europe's got some good ideas for transportation in general.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but you got those people that like cut you off more in roundabouts, but like when it comes to a four-way stop, they're forced to stop.
That's true, but you also don't run into the issue of people running through stop signs.
Yeah, that's true.
Do you know what else I think about the roundabouts? Like they're a really good idea, but I think we're too redneck of a country to have them. And
Well, it's some of that is just you got to change the culture. Same thing with trains.
yeah,
Like
Yeah, but you
just
can't-
building a massive railroad or like an interconnected railway system to go from every major city in the U.S. Like that'll do things,
yeah.
but will it change the culture in a way
No,
that
I don't think.
No,
no
it
one's
won't-
gonna change for that.
it won't? So you have to accept the fact that in the first 15, 20 years of this railroad existing, that it's going to make like no money.
Oh,
Eventually
100%.
it'll do really well, but like
What happened to those trains that were like lightning speed? Like you know what I
bullet
mean?
trains?
We
Oh,
still
they're
have
still
them.
around. Yeah, they're just mostly in like Japan now, right?
Yeah.
In
No,
No,
China.
but like I just saw on a not a YouTube video. I don't know where I saw it, but like this train, it was not just a bullet train. Like bullet trains are fast.
yeah.
It was like 5 times the speed of a normal bullet train.
maglev trains
Yeah,
where
that's
they use because somehow
Electromagnetics.
yeah, the
we use
electromagnets.
electromagnets to hover the train off the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you don't get
Mhm.
friction.
Yeah, that's what they use in that tunnel too. Without the air and no friction,
Yeah.
it zooms.
Yeah, so like I feel like that's a efficient way, and we should really jump on that.
It's
Yeah.
just expensive, and
It
that's
is
why
expensive.
like countries like Japan is also huge into
well,
railroads.
if we had like, I'm sorry, I don't mean to offend anybody, but like past presidents kind of screwed us over with our whole funding, and like we are now not able to produce like the trains that
It's
we
just
need.
not
because
it's just
of
not
that.
where our collective society has decided that we need things. American society, much less than European society, is more individual focused.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's kind of
And
a downfall.
individuals can't use trains. You can't
No.
drive a train by yourself. You have to be like, well, this is good this will benefit me, but it will also benefit society. And that is kind of like, that's what European countries, that's what their mindset is.
I feel like,
especially countries like Sweden.
I feel like
Norway.
we're just like selfish as a country almost.
Mm-hmm.
We are very,
like we do a lot. We do a lot.
yes,
But like there's certain things that we just like we drift off from.
we're
And,
very
like,
we're very economically and like I don't know what the term is, but we are very every man for himself in a way. Like, if this benefits me, I don't care if it doesn't benefit other people, it benefits me. And that's just kind of how our country was built.
So,
even
like,
is it the most efficient way to do things? Probably not. But is it how we have been and still are? Yes.
So we're like economically selfish, basically.
Sure, selfish. You could put it. I think of it less selfish, more
Self-
Darwinian.
Yeah.
Very survival of the fittest, and I am the fittest, right?
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
So-
Also, go for it.
No, go ahead,
Go
go
for it,
ahead.
Luke. Go for it.
No, go ahead. Just go ahead.
I was going to segue. Transportation joke. I was going to segue to cities. In more than ever recently in America, transportation in cities is kind of on the hot seat.
Mm-hmm.
You see more cities. You see older cities on the East Coast, like Boston and New York, relying really heavily, even Pittsburgh, relying really heavily on public transportation.
Yeah.
Buses, subways, that sort of thing. But when you go out west, and less like San Francisco and like California, and more like Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Like cities in Texas, if you've ever looked at them like from aerial maps, they're like perfect squares because they weren't designed for public transportation.
Mm-hmm.
They were designed for cars.
Gotcha.
And you run into issues with that because now these like metropolitan areas like Dallas, Fort Worth, and like Austin are spreading to a point where like it's almost too much for poor citizens.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't have the money to have a car and drive everywhere, then you're kind of out of luck.
Yeah.
So cities recently in America have been on a hot seat because we feel like more people should be using buses.
Yeah.
And I think I'm kind of for that. I feel like public transportation in cities like buses and subways get a bad rep.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Wait, aren't like Texas cities like really far apart from each other?
They're very far apart from each other, but like, for example, Dallas and Fort Worth.
Mm-hmm.
That was like, it's a one huge metropolitan area, but it wasn't always. Like, they were two cities just pretty close together, but in Texas, instead of expanding upward like in New York with skyscrapers and all that jazz, they expand outward because they're not confined to a finite space. Like New York, they're on an island. You only got so much room. But Texas, you have so much space. So like the urban areas of Fort Worth and Dallas have like expanded into each other to a point where they're one city.
Okay.
So like they have been very focused on not public transportation because they're made for cars and such, but because they were just made after the invention of cars, really. But like cities like New York are very buses and subways because they have so many people in a small space.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the best course of action. And I feel like European cities still do this. Like they were never made for cars. I just think that's really interesting.
Yeah, I heard this. Oh, were you gonna say something?
No, you're good.
I heard this idea for a bus, like on a highway, they have a separate lane for buses, and they're kind of shaped like a bullet train, so they go even faster than like normal cars.
Mhm.
So they go like maybe 90 miles an hour. So if you're like in like the countryside where there's not like the cities are like, oh, like I don't even know.
Like the suburbs.
Yeah, like the suburb, like very far apart, right? And
Yeah.
there's just pure highway.
I can see how that's helpful, but also like once you get into town, you kind of like have to hit the brakes.
Yeah,
Like,
you're not gonna go 90 miles an hour in the town.
well, exactly, but like then like those buses are only meant for main highways.
Yeah, but could you imagine just
That
seeing
would be-
one of those
that would be
buses?
fire.
You're just sitting at the bus stop. You just see this bus, like those hills that like they go down, then it's like a little bit forward, and then they go down. You see this bus shoot straight off.
Oh yeah, the second he hits a little bump, you're going flying.
I don't know. I just think that like I don't know. I think trains are the future, man.
I
Yeah,
feel like there's.
Truly, I do.
I definitely feel like there's ways we can improve our transportation, but like
I think
it also comes down to if we're willing to change it.
I agree. I think that we have to adopt a mindset of I think this is best for society. Like that's like also one of the reasons that like European countries like pollute a whole lot less than we do. It's because we're focused. Well, everyone has a car. Some families have 3 cars, 4 cars, but like in Europe, when you can get everywhere by train and by bus, why do you need cars?
Yeah.
And trains can, in theory, be electric without much issue.
I think now most of them are.
Because that's just it's good for the environment and it works just as well. Because one of the huge issues with electric cars right now is that their batteries are terrible for the environment. Once you like they don't because they don't know how to get rid of them or something. I'm not completely fluent with this topic, but like because they don't know how to get rid of them, and they're just terrible for the environment. And there's only a finite amount of lithium, which is what they use. But when you're talking about public transportation, I mean, electric buses, where it's one engine, one battery, carrying 50, 60 people.
Yeah.
Or trains, where it's one battery, maybe 2 batteries, carrying like 50, 60 people. Like, it makes everything a lot more efficient to a place where we really wouldn't have to worry that much about discarding all of these used batteries. I don't know. It's a thought. It's food for thought.
Yeah, and that's why trains are actually better than I thought. Because I just remembered that I think some bullet trains actually charge themselves because they're going so fast on the electromagnetics that they actually charge.
Yeah,
technically they're batteries.
They're
in
just like the
quotations.
hybrid cars.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Like my friend's car, it like when you drive it, the turning of the wheels actually charges the battery.
Correct.
That's so cool, actually.
But like the battery's huge. Like if you threw one of those away, it's definitely not good for the environment.
Exactly, and that's the issue we're running with. California is placing a moratorium on gas cars by 2025, I think.
Yeah.
Like in California, you will not be able to buy a gas car in 2025.
That's a big jump.
Yeah.
It's a massive jump, and though intentions are great because California produces a ton of like fossil fuels and all that jazz. It's a good idea. The issue is we're doing it so quickly that it's going to cause issues.
Yeah.
And if you put money into, I don't know, like public transportation in that aspect, you lose those issues slightly. But once again, it's a huge infrastructure thing. It costs a ton of money. There's loads and loads of downsides, especially when the American culture isn't particularly ready for it. I don't know. It's just going to be interesting to see where what the future holds.
All right, and to wrap this podcast up, so we've technically decided that the best form of future transportation is trains.
Woo, trains!
Yeah.
So old school is new school, I guess.
Old school is new school.
Old school is new school.
Yeah, I like that.
Old
yeah.
school is new school.
I like it too.
All right, so that is this HAWKS'S, and I will see you all next time.
Yeah.